My name is Frady, and this is my presentation, my video presentation for EDUC703. E.D. Hirsch Jr. is a 20th century educational philosopher who refutes the influences of the Romantic and Progressive movement of John Dewey and others from the 1920s to the present. At 93 years old or 92 years old, he is active in the advocacy for a common cultural literacy to provide a foundation for all students to become literate and be prepared for further education, further knowledge acquisition. He was born in Memphis, Tennessee in 1928, and the educational environment that he grew up in was one that was initially a classical education environment, but watched it transition to Dewey's progressive education movement. He realized in going through this education that there was a loss of educational impetus for the liberal arts, education that we are used to, or he was used to seeing, and that included things like government, literature, sciences, math, etc. Things that fell into the classical essential education that early Americans had. He went to college at Cornell University and earned his Bachelor of Arts in 1950 in English. And then he followed up with his master's and his doctorate at Yale, where he graduated in 1957. He began teaching at Yale in 1956 and held his position there until 1966. He then moved to the University of Virginia in 1966 and took a position as literature professor, later becoming that department head. He feels that the purpose of education is to teach general knowledge and competence to students. Core knowledge should include a solid liberal arts background and a core body of knowledge that a student can take and use to gain more knowledge and build upon. He feels that a student must have a body of knowledge, a body of core knowledge, in order to interpret and comprehend what he's been taught so that he can further develop his knowledge base. He feels that to gain knowledge you must start with some, and the more you have, the more and easier you can gain further knowledge. So communities, he found, are based on common core knowledge, or a basis of common knowledge that the individuals have. Without common knowledge, there's no way to relate to each other, and communities fall apart. The educational goal of every generation has been to transmit knowledge of that generation and history of its ancestors to the youth. With this generation, we seem to be eliminating the history past the current generation and moving forward in a progressive movement. How has E.D. Hirsch used his knowledge to take action in education? Well, he founded the Core Knowledge Foundation, and the Core Knowledge Foundation's purpose is to develop curricula across K through 8 that allows teachers to teach students core knowledge and build a core foundation of knowledge. That's a common theme for him, common core knowledge. In 1983, under President Reagan, the government produced The Nation at Risk, and it identified where we have issues, where the weaknesses are in our education system. And the first expert to respond to that was E.D. Hirsch, and he wrote the book Cultural Literacy, What Every American Needs to Know. And in it he listed issues with the American education system, what happened with the progressive movement and romanticism, and how we got to where we're at. But he also listed 5,000 items that we as Americans should know in order to be functional citizens. And that was a strong bestseller for him among parents who felt that their children were receiving an inadequate education and they didn't know where to start. He considers himself a counter-revolutionary, and his adversary is Thought World. The mission of Thought World is to monopolize the thinking in American education and control how information or lack of information is transmitted to the students. Excuse me. E.D. Hirsch has spent 33 years working to counter the issues that were caused by romanticism and progressivism within the American education system, and he is still producing materials that are intended to develop core knowledge in our students. Although he has been called an elitist, he believes that when every student is provided a foundational core knowledge, that provides equality in a way that no other method in education can do.